great signs have been appearing. I know it could all just be the torments of my own ceaseless mind, an overzealous storm born of hopeful imaginings, or just vain superstition. One must never dismiss such possibilities. But they come as signs indescribable, alignments of planets, protean shapes in the clouds, stars that blazing fall to earth. They surely mean something momentous, a shift in the destiny of things. I fear they portend some threat returning from beyond the gnome world, and from beyond even the grave. I have tracked the phenomena closely and presented the collected data to a local astronomer. He drew down from his shelves a certain tome which he called a Galactocriticon, and, thumbing through the decaying leaves, found the desired planetary entry. He read it aloud and gave his interpretation of the phenomena. That the likelihood of divine favor upon my proposal certainly should not be dismissed. Even so, he said, the planetary omens I tracked were not absolute enough for taking risks. Terrestrial signs must also be weighed. Better to wait and hold off from any immediate change of course. I noticed 2 garden cranes take an eastward flight just the same time as he was standing in the garden and explaining the importance of terrestrial omens. Let the proposed expedition, therefore, be dismissed for the time being, he said. Studied caution should be the rule in such discernments. I suspected that he had misread the signs, but said nothing. It was because of something else, something uncommonly propitious, that the astronomer soon changed his mind. It involved my person, an indication unmistakable, a true omen. Should I think of this as no sign? My knees, after having been useless for 20 years, as if one of their own accord, mysteriously and quite miraculously, have healed. It happened the day after prayerful supplications to God about the undertaking. I awoke at dawn and simply leapt out of bed without a second thought, completely oblivious to my crutches. It were as if I had become a youth again. I walked freely without the slightest imbalance. Upon examining the miraculum himself, the astronomer has agreed that we must set out on the expedition at once. Things, therefore, will be made ready now. A certain devout brother has already resolved to quit his daily affairs here in Whig and accompany me. We will hazard the journey south across the Whitehawk continent to finally arrive at the howling plateau of the SARDU wilderness. As an abbot, I always attend to every particular thing as God desires of me, never letting down my shepherd's garb. Even so, heresy has all but consumed our beloved monastery of Whitehaven, and I cannot help but to assign at least partial blame to my own leniency. And therefore my resolution is final. Here I will record an account of this travel, and surely it may be the last thing which I communicate to those who have been my friends. May it be a useful reference for future pilgrims, or anyone who would seek the lost library. May God, in His mercy, send angels to protect us. Day the 2nd. We have located a better chart in the library. I think that the donkey atlas will suffice for the load. Kruth used to say that the creature is immortal when imagination. We will go for a little ways and camp tonight on the plain of Karkor. Day the 3rd. Evening is come. and camp is again underway. The warm fire is a haven from the cooling airs of dusk. The flames flicker with a poetry, a solitary light in a vast and bewildering night that hurries to overtake the prairie. Kar was a far more beautiful land than I would have guessed. I was sad to have left it. There are no monks to save us from chores here. Crickets are the only chanting creatures in this valley. Their monasteries of tall grass and mulberry hedges. This is how the ravine of the Washir ends in the west. Night birds add a delightful refrain, reminiscent of some regale in which I had once delighted as a boy. Today the hot winds of Kitham came upon the ridges of the Hermit Hills, and we tired quickly. We did not even finish the second league. We set camp early, careful to descend into the cool valley, not pitch in some high place. All the more wisdom, for it's too easy to be spotted on the ridges. Since I have a few moments of twilight, I can now look after this journal with a more complete explanation of things. We have been in the saddle 2 days, and we already sense remoteness from the walls of Wig. We will be crossing shallows not far from the great rapids of the Washir. Then we must enter into the unwatched paths of the great Middle Forest, Childeshire. 4th day. I think that now I have been rash. It is a foolish and desperate trip we have undertaken. Although I have brought along a trained guardian monk who excels at the open-handed combat, we have with us no formally trained military escort. Perhaps God wants us to put our trust in Him and in prayer rather than the sword. Even though the Edelund Rangers patrol these regions, I fear that not far off there prowl outlaws, bandits, or other dangerous kinds, barbarians and mountain savages, or worse, subhumans, whose occult lair is below in these very places. And just today we halted by a human skull, resting in the ashes at some abandoned campsite, perhaps left by Horgrim, or cannibals, or carnivorous trolls, who knows? I hastily performed a burial for the poor soul. The huge barrier of the Hermit's Hills will also pose difficulty. We had expected to go as far as Kitham and the Yazez country without trouble. We are willing to go farther than any other tome hunting expeditions in which monks have ever gone. It seems like a boyish dream to me now. Can I reasonably expect to keep alive in these wilds from day to day? Should we turn back while we have the chance? Reckon this: a seeker of high lore, a powerful scion of a mythic race, a great name, also holding the office of Archivir, had for a long time urged some kind of mission to NYSTOL and her rumored library, but he would refuse every request from the clandestine Archivist Guild for funding. In order to avail the cause, I had to look elsewhere for patronage. I found other parties interested in this endeavor besides him. I have a great desire to at last secure the ancient writings of legend. The librarians of Regulum were nevertheless eager to accept my proposal. Also, certain scribes of Wig were ready to offer me considerable funds and even a reward. They have their own motives, which I trust as abbot be not unwholesome, for who would dare? It must involve matters of high import beyond my ken. It used to be that the abbot of Whitehaven was the highest of all leaders, spiritual and temporal, the Godmouth. Now this office is considered merely titular, although few realize that the actual power of the Eldane over all the Firth was never rescinded, but remains. I suppose it is better to play a servant that knows little or nothing. Worldly princes will disregard me, and I can lead God's church in earnest. So I eagerly accepted the down payment. I am ready to put my skills at last to the test. If we do make it as far as Astodan, the vaults under NYSTOL, then nothing will bother me. For by the grace of God it will be surely prove that nothing can stop us. The Archivir is also a collector of high lore, but he has now retired from his tome seeking and went into a possibly centuries-long hibernation. It seems the slow march of ages can become wearisome even for the Fey races. To him I have no further obligation, unless there be counted an obligation to the Archivist Guild, which he founded. They will be permitted to make copies of whatever we bring back, if they have the time and the coin. Last week, upon having obtained to the Archivir's abandoned Torgrith Tower, the Guild found a few important works preserved, as well as the magic silver ring which the creature left. There was no doubt nothing else there could bring further light to the darkness of these mysteries. Neither any record of explanations for the strange success of the heresy which we struggle against, nor a single theological tract to disprove the heretics, and no clue of other rumored conspiracies, only whispers linked to the eldritch ruins of NYSTOL. Sleep beckons, and already I lack the strength to complete the extensive journal descriptions of the terrain which I hoped to accomplish. I would rather leave this explanation as a kind of last will and testament. Anything can happen out here. Day 11. As anyone who has made it across the First Continent will tell you, overland travel is far more treacherous than any travel through the trap-laden tombs and troll tunnels under the earth. Even so, we have been making good time slipping through bandit territory quickly and unnoticed as it seems. Most of our strength is spent by the time we pitch camp. Therefore, I seek your forgiveness for my negligence in keeping these records. There comes to me now some swell of strong inspiration. I no longer fear to reveal many things. I am Cromna, monk and abbot. In my youth, I became a monk at Whitehaven, but later was sent to the monastery in the Dry Blood Sea, which became my home for years. I returned to Whitehaven when was elected abbot. Now I am a man exiled from there. Those halls were once a sanctuary of the righteous, of devout hymns and incensations rising heavenward. Now, as almost overnight, the heresy has metastasized the sacred precincts into a vile den of iniquities. After fleeing from that place of foul lies, that stage where perversions of the truth masquerade as enlightenment, I secured help. I evaded the pursuit of the wicked. Insolent, they called me, one who dared to oppose their enlightenment. By the aid of angels I escaped them. Even so, within a widow's mite of my life, I then took ship, hoping for a better place, possibly the monastery of the Weeping Brotherhood in the Dry Blood Sea. But later I would hear at Regeldum that they too have embraced the heresy, even more completely. Somehow, surviving a terrible shipwreck, I made it through to the shores of Osring and came to the border of the 9 feudatories. Then was I driven by the spirit to the friars in the town of Wig. That is my story so far. I let pass 2 circling years, sojourning in Wig, learning as much as possible under the Archivir Kruth, living at the very edge of society, relying on the help of many other fine guild members. Before I find another house of prayer and take up a sacred life again with brethren, I will do all in my power to expose the heresy of the monks I once trusted. I am certain that our Lord wishes to alert all believers to the weird doctrines that have brought so much grief as of late to our ancient way. Heresy masquerades as truth, worming its way into the sacred confines of the inspired intellect, and it corrupts every aspect of true faith. I, at least, hope to stifle it. I will seize from them the fuel against which their infernal ardor blazes, the books of the ancients. I expect that by now they have burned all sacred books in the monastery, and they are probably spreading their darkness, going through the stacks kept for centuries at the rock oasis of Vath. I heard them swear that they would. Like termites going through a dying tree, they will destroy any leaf or bark that does not support their twisted labyrinth of deception. Next, they will enter into NYSTOL's ruins in hopes to seize the Eldark codices left there. But I will have made it there before them to rescue the most valuable texts. Precious leaves are thought to be left there, but no one will dare enter that place. The land of NYSTOL has been cursed. Like that one forgotten city by Galilee's shore, Chorazin, a town cursed by Christ himself for failing to hear him. Nothing grows there. It is burned out. NYSTOL has been under a similar curse. All the land to the south is reported to be fertile and green, but the SARDU plateau on which the towers rest has become a barren hell. Like the fig tree that would bear no fruit, such must wither in the face of the unapologetic light. I should not expect to return or ever see the inside of a monastery again. Therefore, I will dispense from the Archivist Guild's rule, namely that anonymity should be covering anything we write. Instead, I leave my name recorded here. In this, I only endanger myself and no one else. I must do this because I remain a monk, and even more so, I am an abbot as well. I too am their priest, albeit exiled, but still by God I am charged with grave responsibility, and so I must explain these many things for the protection of other monks as well. I do so not for my own brethren, who have already forfeit their souls, but for any monks who might come into contact with them and their deceptions. My responsibility to Kruth's Guild does not eclipse this. Any Amoric monk will consider seriously an abbot's warning. So if you find this journal upon my corpse, clutched in my bony hands, please bring it securely to one of the northern monasteries such as Whitehaven. Monks, you see, are particularly susceptible to this new and strange heresy. As a member of the guild, I am susceptible as well. I also warn any untrained and unauthorized monk, especially anyone who has been a monk but only a few years, who may happen upon this record. Maintain the rule even for this, and do not read further than this page without permission from your abbot, unless of course you suspect that even your abbot has gone crazy with the unholy teachings. Otherwise, fear God, and reserve these things for the eyes of the elect only. Child, you will do far more for the sake of righteousness by disciplined obedience. It is not in your hands alone to save the world from the coming darkness. Learn this, that it is for such an end that my companion and I set out on journey to NYSTOL, and entertain no doubt whatsoever that I am chosen by the Firth High King himself. Soon I must retire to my blanket. I will write more on these things another day. Oh, I should mention my group before I sleep. I have been traveling with this very same monk. He is also a guild member whom I may not name. The same who availed me escape from the heretics. He is a kind and ready soul who has helped me ever since that time. I also bring along pack animals. the donkey, Atlas, being the best. A smart beast who can carry many tomes. We are getting very close now. There is a good cause to suppose that we might both reach the Astodan caves alive and enter into the corridors which are said to twist down into the basements of NYSTOL. Who knows? There might even be stored there a copy of the Golden Pages of the Wind, or even the mysterious Vortex poem. When it comes to ancient papyri, I know that straight stalks can be found planted among the twisted tears of sorcerers' scribbles. Twelfth day. After a brief exploration of the bush country on the outskirts of the canyon of Hermias, we came across men who had come up from the basins below. These were two herders, Kutal nomads armed with sabers, of the tribe of the famous bladesmiths who wander this part of the world. They stood at one of the occasional wells just beside the main route into the mountains. They did not introduce themselves to us, but kept to their own business, bringing up buckets of water for their herd. Our horses were spent and needed water. We stood in the baking noonday sun and thought a moment how we might approach them. Their own goats, a small herd, began to encircle us, nibbling on our tunics and trying our boots. We were glad, with the tunes of much whinnying. My companion was not familiar with goats, having come from an island, but only with sheep.
I find these creatures descended and horned very strange, rather weird in fact,
said my companion,
as if a perverse version of the sheep.
They are rather shameless, I commented. Perhaps their owners are the same way, for they watch us and are amused.
And they seem not to care, Abbot. This one here has attempted to make a treat out of my cincture rope, and now he is eyeing our packs.
Tribesmen use the creatures to hinder travelers from easily passing through.
Perhaps an offering would encourage these nomads to herd their creatures away. We have a skin of wine left. If they do not comprehend our tongue, they would doubtless be persuaded by the fruit of the vine, which clearly cannot grow here.
I consented, and we gave them some of the wine as a gift of passage. There was much laughter and play with the animals, and this resulted in easing the tensions among the strangers. The nomads could not hope to ignore us further, and they drove the aggressive goats away from us, smacking the behinds with the long branches. They did not thank us, or answer or acknowledge us in any way other than to brandish the wine sack before squirting a red stream into their mouths. We pitched camp not far away from there, and the sun has already dipped below earth upon the celestial wheel. 13th day. The nomads returned late in the morning. After some hesitation, they approached to speak with us. Perhaps that was their custom, or perhaps they hoped for more of that Aquilaran wine. We offered our salutary introductions in Latin, but they did not return it on account of their rough knowledge. They were not without minimal proficiency in the Oruscan Greek, however, the only shared tongue of which any in those regions had slight recognition. They immediately gave their opinion of the old abandoned towers, foreguessing the purpose of our journey, the ruins of NYSTOL. They teased us with insult, as is their custom. The translation is exact.
Foolish maidens, you are come for the ruins up there on the mesa of SARDU. They are forbidden to outlanders. They are shunned. It is a place where shadows lurk. Do not go there. Let the bricks and stones be.
You have brought yourselves, but you are not good enough,
added the other.
You have not any others?
He shook his head in disbelief.
And you hired no trained war party? Most outlanders coming this way and seeking that place pay warriors for strong protection. They always bring many shield-bearing men.
You must turn back and not go. You listen, and you will know why. Tall snout heads patrol region not far downriver. The devilish hyena heads. Some spot them moving in southernmost reaches of the canyon. The approaches to the mesa. They carry ash spears and sharp stone weaponry. They have killed many, but that is nothing compared to the other dangers.
Other dangers? I asked. Any thumb bit of lore I considered worthy of looking into. Hyena heads are an old legend of unreliable gain. The ancient Greek explorers of the East called the same cynocephaly, dogheads, but there have been few other accounts besides the fabulous. The native tribes popularized it in order to make foreign princes wary of crossing their lands. It seems to be some barbaric tribe that dons the hyena's head for armor, for they must hunt down and slay a hellish hyena with their bare hands in order to be initiated as warriors.
Not only for them, but wander shadowy spirits upon the mesa. To meet them is worse than death.
And that is not only for those who make it.
The other nomad interrupted.
Most travelers pass by, and most travelers never find the ruins. Many come, but ruins are never reached. They die while looking for the passage.
The desert takes them, or the hyena heads track them down. Blame the remoteness. Blame the highness so steep and one far above in climbing. Nor are the ruins easily marked from below with your eyes.
While listening to him, I noticed how he glanced at my boots. He tried changing the subject and began speaking instead of the donkey, explaining how proud he was of the fine animal. It was obvious to me that both were hoping to seem unsurprised, as if visitors were common in these parts. Surely they were trying to keep a secret. The first nomad, his face covered with an immense shaggy beard, perhaps owned the animals. The other, who may have been his son, doubtless worked hard. My companion urged with subtle looks to push for more information.
Make you journey far and wide, and you will not come near the ruins. For those are ruins hidden from us. There is only one way. You will follow paths that only certain trained one is able to remember. A man who knows the narrow defiles. A scout who is close friend of the desert. There is one who does this thing. One, not any other. He is trained guide and good survivor, living 2 years on earth with terrible danger near his spirit. He does not say many things. The Zerbi will show you why. He is dwelling in secret tent, but we are requiring you. Have good pay for him. He only guides. Other fearful walking nomads despise ruins.
We do not want to involve another guide, I said. All the reward can be yours if you take us now. You are not fearful of the old stories, are you? Do all the Kutal and the SARDU tribes despise that place? He looked at me askance, nervously, shifting his eyes here and there. For a moment he held his speech, and finally consented.
In Earth's dawn, say the grandfathers, some monarch, accursed be his name, enslaved our people. Thousands went into chains, thousands to work and make free giant stones from within mountain. Later, many towers, massive towers they build, and now these stones also lay there. Stones are fallen, and grandfathers say they are huge, like the huge trees which grow in the age time of Titans, before the deep waters swallowed many peoples. Some of our fathers used to dare and used to go up and to bring back bronze pieces they were breaking off from the colossal statue. But returning they spoke of ghosts and hyena heads, and so they did not return there. and did not bring back more bronze. Some temples remained there, where the alien gods dwelt, the demon gods. They are broken but standing. There are many strange monuments of nether princes, monuments which exalt the glory of the wicked masters. All those now lay about. They are banished from our talk. They are whitening like bare bones now, like goat bones in the desert when day fades into night, and they are wrapped up in the red vines and in the shadow.
Also, the other hesitated, breaking in as if in an unspoken disagreement, doubtless fearful that too many things be revealed. The crumbling roads and the bridges are dangers. Not for me. I am not about to take you to SARDU cliffs. Not for any livestock or riches you make trade with. In their nomadic tongue, he muttered some rebuke into his fellow, but the other replied with words that fell on deaf ears. I looked hard at him and frowned.
Do not direct eyes at me,
he said.
Not me as one who may lead any there. The sandy desert takes many men. And if not that, then the rocky mesa leaves you bones for vultures. No, it would be death.
We must go to this place, I explained. There are others who seek to retrieve the learning of their own ancestors, and it is said that some important things remain beneath the ruins. Perhaps you will convey us to the guide you mentioned?
We will take you to him, but do not expect to persuade him. He is Sardi, of the tribe Na'ar, and he knows us. We will do this for you, but now first you make happy trade of ass with us.
The ass is not for trade, I said. Atlas, the donkey, was invaluable. The creature was rumored to have been made intelligent by means of the gnome's magic. He had seen many things and had been on many adventures. He was also world famous, or infamous, for having lost most of the black books by attempting to stubbornly cross a mountain ford during a downpour. It is because of him that 80% of Whitehawk history is missing. His presence on the current journey was considered penance. I was insistent that the donkey be kept. I frowned sternly. Never this beast.
Then you gift fancy oxide boots to us.
My leather boots were new, not even broken in. Nevertheless, this was it. This was for what I had waited for so many years. So I passed them off and received the nomad's miserable goat-hide sandals, which I suppose are more like what the apostles must have worn on their many journeys into strange lands. At least the sandals fitted. In the morning, they would come for us, and we were to follow those two nomads, together with their goats, into destiny. Day 14. The sun is upon the horizon. We've mounted our pack animals and have descended on a rocky trail with our nomad guides. Perhaps some 2,000 measures into the floor of Hermes' canyon. I mounted my horse and put my packs on the donkey Atlas and tied the animals together. The old donkey was disagreeable. As if in retribution, he seemed very unmindful of the steeply dropping ledges as it carelessly bolted about. The animal was so overconfident we must surely be about to slip off the trail, falling to a dreadful end, 1,000 measures below. The pack horses are not much better. Even if those creatures are accustomed to such terrain, it gives the rider little consolation when balanced so close to a precipitous drop. They are skillful animals, and may somehow have understood this quiet game at our expense. They doubtless have their pleasure in it. In a few hours, we will have arrived at the encampment of the nomadic tribe on the canyon floor. Unlike the dry bush country above, it will be mild and shady down there. Since there are no breezes, the horseflies found us and offered their menace with infernal buzzing. In my opinion, they are little demons with wings. They did not even go after the nomads. whose heads are well wrapped in turbans. The horses splashed through the river to reach the large nomad tents. We came about a road to the far edge of the encampment and arrived at a poor little tent. It was a small round tent, the tent of a reputed NYSTOL guide, a rather shabby tent made of old skins tied together and in a lonely, separated place. The goat owner went into the tent alone for a few moments and then came out again. He invited us to enter the smoky interior. We saw an elderly shaman, bald, and gazing with dreamy eyes, sitting cross-legged. He was perhaps in his 90s, and a very young man was there as well. His hair, long and uncombed, sat with him. The shaman was obviously the one who had hung up strange objects, such as lizard heads, and a number of feathers and many skins decorated with magical glyphs, as well as various bowls filled with perhaps herbs, incense, or any number of weird substances I could not identify. The nomads introduced us not as monks, but as trusted travelers, for they did not recognize our monastic habits. After all, it has never been heard that our kind had ever gone so far abroad. They did find our habits curious, under which we had made provision to wear leather armor. At once, after introductions, it became apparent that the boy was apprenticed to the old shaman. I began to question this gaunt young man known as the Mesa Guide. He did not answer, and it soon became apparent that he was unable, and that in fact he was speechless. In order to find the entrance to the accursed library, one must follow tunnels underground within the mesa. Is that true? I asked. The boy nodded in the affirmative. The leader, nomad, who had brought us, the bearded nomad, spoke for the young man, interpreting the strange sign language. Will this boy inform us? I asked. Why does he not speak? Who or what has maimed him? Or has he no natural speech ability? When this boy guide heard the nomad's translation of this, he shook his head emphatically. Obviously, the dread of giving information on an identity still held its forbidding threat.
He has never revealed it,
Explained the nomad who had brought us.
And he would not reveal it if he could reveal it. We only know this. He disappeared for an entire winter. He went to be guide for many horsemen, for shield-bearing warriors. He returned alone without ability for speech, as one literally scared, speechless, permanently, and the warriors, each one, had their bones lifted.
I never did discover if this mutilation were actually real, or if it were just a way to get us to feel pity so that they could ask for more. As a man of God, I could not be rude and demand to examine his mouth. There is a legend that certain long-living wizards have survived and haunt the deadly hills and parts of the canyon. According to this, the wizards of NYSTOL would always cut out the tongue of anyone foolish enough to try overcoming them by force. It was an eye-for-eye retribution against the 5 kings of the ancient world, who originally exiled the wizards of SARDU. They had attempted to put an end to the spellcasting by cutting out each spellwise tongue. Their bones lifted, I asked.
A terriculum. It is a Cthulhu's tree, a type of, how do you say, scare away man. Skull and bones tied on bare pole tree to make warning. The boy has swift feet and knows every wild place, every rock of canyon, every hill and desert sand. One day men pay us for his knowledge, for expedition. On third day, boy goes to river near the tiny water flow to wash and drink. It was a place not far from the entrance to the secret tunnels that lead into Mesa and up into NYSTOL. When he is coming back again from river, every strong warrior he finds cut apart and piled in bloody heaps. He not say more other than that. Otherwise, afterwards he become always speechless. No one knows why. He has been now in a bad way, and will not take a big war party, not any longer. He knows how big war parties leave many tracks and campfires. The hyena heads always find out. They always thirst for killing. He is brave, but you must do what he says. Travel on foot when you reach plateau. No horse. And he will be guiding only when sun is sunk down, when there is night. It is likely that the hyena heads are gone far south to Mulith. It be season to make war with the Vree. If so, if not tracks of hyena heads, you will make it. But if not, he will return to safer territory and not go to NYSTOL.
Perhaps you have kept some of the old scrolls and books of NYSTOL yourself, I suggested. They are treasured, you know. And I added rather imprudently, if you have kept them here, we can pay good coin.
Our people, they are not trained to make words on paper. Many say making signs on goatskin be devil work. We rely on magic way that each has been given. But we have no magician, Lord, besides this one shaman, him, and he is too old to remember, so many spells and curses he cannot utter. I think that is why some power cut out the tongue of his apprentice, to destroy magic word saying. There is not any high one with most powerful magic, and this guide would not make signs to tell of magic things, even if magic things like writing were left here.
There was a pause while the boy sat there on his goat hides watching us. He had a glint of keenness in his eye, and he was skinny and somewhat worn-looking. He studied close our faces, our gestures. It seemed looking us over with curious eye. The old shaman could care less for us, and by the distant gaze of his dreamy eyes, he must have been elsewhere in spirit. Will you then be our guide, boy? I have plenty coin.
But not for coin,
said the nomad, answering for him. It was rather apparent that he looked after the poor guide and received a considerable cut of his bids.
Our kind do not much be going among ruled townsmen. You must offer a number of goats, then he will guide. It is best hope of good living he need. He make risk of his own skin. As the guide, he does not accept many requests for this. So offer many goat, or he is about to refuse.
We had to make an offer, though we did not own any goats. 10 goats?
Not enough. Do you think this is not deadly work? Many have died. 50 head is good.
50? We have not enough. Just 30 will cost us our own coin.
39 is low, but we accept.
I did not offer that yet.
I heard from the wise they offer the very same amount to the nomads whenever they go abroad. Less would be insult. I am glad we do not hear less is offered. It is almost a right number. But you are new to our ways, so we give you special low price, 39. You agree?
Not many do this. You are in a good deal, very fair. We Kutal are too generous to outsiders. We must cease being this way. Our wives will be angry.
So, what they required was promised. They did, however, require, in turn, that my boots be returned. The other 2 nomads will also accompany us as far as the end of the canyon. By nomadic arm clasping, we closed the deal, and they went off to make preparations and meals. We bade farewell to a certain brother and guild member with instructions and monies to purchase goats about the sacred cliff city Vesselum up canyon 8 leagues north, to meet us back again there, no longer than 2 weeks hence.
As collateral, the nomads have our 2 pack horses after coming to the furthest reach of the canyon, and they will care for them until we return, if we return. So practical and deliberate folk are the Kutal nomads. How was it that ways so strange and foreign to what I am accustomed are part of this life? They know nothing of monks or scribes or imperial librarians, or even of written law or the tablets and the men who twist it. Their only worry was the hyena heads, or other humans all the more, the goat thieves and the vicious gold prospectors and the various mean-hearted gazelier wandering the canyon. The journey used to take 2.5 days traveling south, leaving the Gezez Desert Valley and entering into the higher zones of the subplateau. Day 15. After packing our tents, it has become clear that the nomads are now treating us differently. Perhaps they have lost every trust afforded well-meaning strangers as regards us, and having abandoned our payment, they count us among the doomed. They did not reveal their names when we inquired, but clammed up or cast a downward glance. Whether this is out of some custom or superstition or unspoken fear of magic, perhaps we should not even hope to learn. The 2 herders will not go all the way. They plan to relinquish the party when we reach the end of the canyon, where the wilderness of Kedamoth begins. They know the land and can fight, and though they are very guarded, they have become very talkative again, and treat on many things as to how we should travel in the desert. One, for example, showed us how to extract clean water from the canyon floor. We made several attempts to persuade them to stay on. They were not to be persuaded. They will part ways come nightfall. The donkey Atlas has been acting strange. His ears twitch in an unusual pattern. He refuses to lay down for rest.
To be earning much coin as helpers on Mesa expeditions would become bad luck with hastened death, they say. Only trained guide may go all the way.
Day 16. Much of the same today. The air is very dry as we near the high desert. The canyon walls keep us cool, and there are occasional trees. There is no more water left. If we have some divine assistance, we might be able to avoid the waste desert entirely, trekking instead through the cactus forest of Kedamoth. One incident involving the nomads deserves mention before continuing. On the last night before their departure, we had arrived at one of their oft-used campsites in an area the guide assured us was safe. We lit up a small fire underneath a huge rock overhang. We were roasting and eating some small orthopods seized from the diminishing river. The leader nomad, not waiting till he had finished swallowing, spoke.
You wifeless travelers,
He would call me that.
what do you seek in that place? Treasure? Powerful magic?
I cannot say what is my purpose, friend, I answered. But it is thought that there are things left up there which describe the entire history of the Firth Reaches, as well as sacred things of days long past. I wish to collect these, whatever remains, and bring them back to be copied and stored in the library of the Emperor. There is one book of utmost importance which must not fall into the wrong hands.
You are seeking the black books, then?
I was stunned that he would know somehow that. I checked my chew on the orthopod and stared at him, speechless.
These are famous books, he explained. Many who have come have mentioned.
The black books are valuable, yes, I admitted, and they surely are useful for learning the history of certain lands, ancient kings and relics. Since
Since NYSTOL's magic is gone, only relics left over from the ancient world remain, and they yet retain powerful magic. The books describe their elemental powers. This must be controlled by the church. And there are other books I am seeking which are even more precious to men of faith.
There are other things written in them, he said, brooking no disagreement.
There are some things which I must not speak on, I admitted.
There be what sorcerers seek. You have brought evil with you. A bird follows you, one who is dark. A vulture. He is afraid and keeps distance. The winds speak to me. They say he is the eyes of a warlock, one who knows big magic. I have seen him many times flying.
If that is true, he cannot come near, I said. But we'll look for a chance to snatch the book if we find it. There is a sorcerer shadowing us.
Whom the men of these lands call the Warlock of Yeth.
We have dealt with him in the past. He cannot work magic against monks. At the name Warlock of Yeth, the speechless boy, our guide who was sitting with us near the fire, looked up with eyes wide, alarmed. Something like dread came over his face. He started making protests by arm gestures, as if to shoo away an evil spirit. Fear turned to anger. He grunted angrily several times, trying to talk. He looked as if he was about to get up and flee, relinquishing our agreement. Tell him that the warlock cannot harm him, I ordered. Tell him that there is no danger because we are men of God. The warlock has been made weak before us. He is punished. Only his familiar, a vulture, watches from afar, a useless exercise. The leader nomad took hold of the speechless boy's flailing arms and spoke to him with charged words. And also, I suspect, he reminded him of the great need of new goats.
He has fear of this warlock. It is the spirit man, many say. Our grandfathers also spoke of this sorcerer. He envy many others and think himself cursed. He haunts the canyon and deadly hills and the Yazez. They say he goes by the name Arizel, though they were uncertain. Why we must believe that you have done this punishing to great warlock, feared of numberless days long past. You are not wizard. What kind are you? Wifeless? Or are you a woman guising as a man? Your eyes say not even kill in battle yet. You read too many book. Are you priest of Amori?
It's a monk seeking out the lost volumina. Now listen, tell him quiet down. Who knows if any hostiles come around this part of the canyon hunting game at twilight? Do we not see an old campfire someone left earlier with unknown tracks? Inform him of this. We smashed the old warlock's power just weeks ago in Vesselum with an old-fashioned god magic. Tell him the Elonaya did this. The boy guide looked puzzled when he heard the name. He did indeed recognize the title, the Elonaya. It is famous in the few lands accustomed to keeping the old lore. The leader nomad translated these things, and the guide began to calm down. Elas continued his meal. Our campfire crackled and glowed more fiercely.
You be friendly with the dwarf shaman, the archivir called the Eleusinian.
Asked the leader nomad. We are, and I am surprised that any so distant from Wig would reckon the secret name of the guildmaster is unexpected.
He has become legend. He saved our fathers during the wars with the Kalar Marab. During an age now past, taught them to fight. Men say he is enchanted, a gift to tribes from good mountain father. Where he is gone? You go with him recent days?
We are cut off from the power of the Elonaya now, and we must rely only on our wits and on God. Without the Elonaya, we would never have made it, but I tell you this, none but your great-grandchildren might see him again, for he has withdrawn from the world. The time grows short, and we are hunted men. It is not safe to inform you of more. Not here in the open. The nether brood have big ears indeed. Demons unseen may also be eavesdropping nearby. There is danger ever present, and powers ready themselves. The Elonaya taught us of these things. We have many plans, many tricks of escape to avoid hyena heads or other hostile ones when we get into the defile.
Not for you becoming up with plans, saying we do this now, we go here, we do this plan.
Said the nomad, rather sternly.
You do everything that not with Pang Mesa guide indicates. You not question him. He has one good plan, which is best if enemy tracks you down, sniffs you out.
I could not think of how to answer such a strong injunction. Here was a man that could not write, lived a primitive existence, and he was informing me that my skills and knowledge would avail us nothing. You do not think it would be wise to have several plans? I asked. Each of these many could be considered, and the best one chosen in each different event.
No, not that way.
Why do you demand that?
I tell you story of why, and you listen good. It is a story of animals that haunt the canyon. Fox and cat, who live and hunt in canyon. Fox make boast to cat. I have many ways to escape enemy hunters. A whole bag of tricks, 100 ways to escape. Cat say, I have only one way, but I managed with that one way many time. Just at that time, they hear cry of a pack of hounds coming toward them, and Cat immediately scampered up an yew tree and hid himself in the boughs. This is my plan, said Cat. What is your plan? Which one you do now? Fox first thought of one way, then of another, and while he debated to himself, the hounds came nearer and nearer, and soon Fox, in his confusion, was caught up by the hounds and soon killed by the hunters. Cat, who had seen the whole thing, said, better one safe way than 100 on which you cannot reckon. So now you know. You just let Mesa Guide be as Cat. If you do this, you will succeed. If not, you will fail. You are after the accomplishment of dangerous enterprise, urgent works. We do not disbelieve it. This far beyond short seeing of our ignorance, our simple ways, our goats. But we not so simple as our lives seem. If before this I had knowledge of how important your quest to hinder dark power, I would before say all nomads help him.
The old nomad was right. His earthly wisdom was something not to be lightly brushed aside on account of its rustic origin. So I too, by his simple fable, have become convinced that this world is filled with many dangerous spiritual killers who lay traps for the soul. There is only one way, not many, to escape them. It is the tried and true way of our ancient discipline. Your help is providential, I said. God is watching over us. The Elonaya himself told me that the route to the tunnels of Asodan, which lead to the summit of the SARDU Mesa, is almost impossible to find. And perhaps we shall return with warriors instead.
Tomorrow, he observed in a reflective tone, no longer eating, we go back to our goats and our wives, to those things which give comfort. You, however, you do not much rest, not much take comfort, not for you, not much easiness, as long as the doings which the Elonaya has asked of you are left undone, even if it costs the shedding of blood. This I know, our fathers commanded it. The Elonaya alone remains. He is the key holder, sent by the All-Spirit, who guards against the power of the abomination. You go hire warriors if you need. Our tribe will wait 2 moons for you.
There was a silence. A troubled look remained on the speechless boy's face. All listened to the coyotes yipping in the distance. There is too little time. What we do, we must do quickly. The Kutal nomads did not say goodnight. It is thought bad luck. So does superstitious custom have hold over them. We will not use tents tonight, but we'll sleep in blankets under the stars. It will be our last chance for slumber during the dark hours. Day 17. This morning the nomads bade us farewell. They promised that they would pray to the All-Spirit for us. We also passed over our pack animals to them as agreed. And for the animals are weary anyway. We kept only the donkey Atlas in hopes of loading him down with crumbling books. One donkey, that is all. One beast of burden, to carry the burden of the world's learning, in order that the darkness of ignorance might not swallow all peoples and keep truth locked away. In the balance, the world is suspended as if on a string over the abyss. All choices which a single soul makes in his entire life, if looked at together, are a labyrinth, leading to the inner chambers of eternity. The problem is that would-be heroes who go into labyrinths can perish, miserably lost in those labyrinths. They fail of starvation in some dim corner of a dead end, having gotten disoriented without any knowing guide or map to follow, and unable to detect the slight breeze of air, or discern the good water from the bad water. Aye, he fails at what is most crucial. On the other hand, some do know the right way, but they may not have the resolve of will to actually follow it out. This is why Elonaya has sought out knowledge on behalf of the race of men. What might be found yet to increase our knowledge of the Blessed Allfather? Are there not sacred doctrines to teach us what manner of worship is pleasing to the Creator? Could we also forever lose such ancient lore to the dusts of NYSTOL or the fires of the heretics? The crypts of Astodan, rumored to lay beneath NYSTOL, are where the sorcerers entomb themselves, away from the Maharim barbarians clutching their precious tomes. It is called an accursed ground, but men in their folly never cease to covet what is left there upon the chests of those lifeless lords, locked under bony fingers, some occult power enclosed within the bindings and the indecipherable writing, words forever lost to human memory. However, among the weeds, one may sometimes find a rose. On account of these things, with regard to his appointed task, the special donkey accompanies us. A donkey who is to bear the load of mundane learning on his back upon our return from NYSTOL. The nomads had promised they would take good care of the pack horses, and I was consoled, having days earlier spotted much ungrazed riverbank awaiting them upstream. We passed by the colossal head of some ancient monarch there, tipped as if fallen down, but from where? He seemed chiseled of old Althapian style, the visage of some forgotten hegemox. I proposed that it was antediluvian, for why would men bid a monument be so placed? Nay, the stupendous floodwaters deposited it at the nigh same time the beautiful canyon was formed. The narrow ways through the canyon twisted through great rock walls, where the water or uplifted mountain rock had made many small overhangings. It was in these dusty places that we would camp and warm our bones near the fire during the day, within seeing distance of the river, buzzing with dragonflies, where Atlas cooled himself in the shade provided by occasional trees. We will doubtless sleep hard during the daylight hours, and will rise at twilight to pack our blankets. Day 18. The guide knows the path so well that he can work with very little light. We have entered the wilderness of Kedamoth and its defiles. He has forbidden campfires. At one point, during a starless night, the guide suddenly signaled and halted our march through the little grove in a wide area of cactus forest. He knelt down near to the ground and was examining what most likely were foot or hoof prints, though I could not really make out what sort. We stood and listened for half an hour, but we heard nothing. The boy guide pulled a little white bird from out of his pocket. The creature seemed lifeless. Holding it in his hand for some time, he breathed upon it. It suddenly stirred and was soon fully awake. The guide cast the creature into the evening sky and flew off. We travel onward. 19th day. This is what I remember from the 19th day. A day of both disaster and grand revelation. In the morning, the speechless boy drew many pictures on the ground and made many hand gestures. And we guessed at his meanings. We had little chance of guessing right, save that the tracks he had seen were indeed hyena heads, recognizable by the shape of the long-clawed foot. The enormous tracks were perhaps only several hours old, and merely retreating would not assure avoidance of their war party. These hyena heads were accompanied by other deep imprints, what seemed armored bipedal creatures. Anything more we could not ascertain, save that it was obvious that they were on the hunt. The party had been patrolling even into the canyon, which they never do, though it is one of the main routes to NYSTOL. Suddenly the earth shook, the air hissed with sounds of
Turn about!
My companion yelled. Although still crouched, turning my head, I saw a towering and enraged beast standing on its hind legs, a devilish hyena-head humanoid rushing upon us, his fanged mouth agape. He seemed gigantic in stature, and he was clad in leather-banded armor. There were perhaps 4 others just behind him. In several quick movements, he went to hew me down with a club that was once a small tree. I reached for my weaponry, but could not ready it quickly, since I had to roll away instead from the impact of his massive club, which would have smashed all my bones. Then, before I recovered from the roll, a hairy creature grabbed me and put me in a headlock under one of the huge hairy arms. Flee! I bellowed, but it was too late. The hyena head had struck me again. I expected that it would be the next bite into me, as if I were a deer it had caught. Instead, the hairy beast pulled me up and struck me down with its claw, so that I was tossed to earth and went out as if dead. The next thing I remember was that my hands were cruelly bound while I was being pulled along in a captive march. In front of me, also bound in ropes, the speechless boy guide and my companion were spared, and as captives were being taken somewhere. Whatever was the reason, I could not garner. With a glance behind me, I saw the 2 nomads with whom we had contracted. Obviously, they had not gone far in return before they also were captured by the hyena heads. Several other creatures of this strange beast tribe now marched beside us and struck with a whip when we lagged. We were hostages, most strange and unpredictable, perhaps even semi-intelligent creatures.
What will they do with us?
My companion cried out. Immediately he was struck, brutal force, by one of the guarding creatures. With terrifying canine howls, they goaded the other men and treated us roughly. Were they planning to keep us alive for fresh meat at some later time? After ascending the canyon for some span of time, they conducted us along a ledge, a steep drop of perhaps 1,000 measures into the canyon waters below. The hyena head then seized me and was ready to hurl me down from an outcropping of jagged rocks. Well, that would have been the end. So he lifted me above his head so as to fling me off the precipice. In a moment, other hyena heads had seized the remaining captives and were terrorizing them with equal taunts. It was just an entertainment for them. I am writing these things now as I reside in the chambers of the Moho, the ruler of the hyena head domain, Granak. We have been taken here into these sandstone combs at the bottom of Hermias' canyon and have been hostages of the hyena heads for several weeks. The creatures do not speak an intelligible language by human standards, but nevertheless they are able to grasp the intentions of human word. They are not without some semblance of intellect, and are wise enough to rely on a leader with much greater intelligence and learning than they could obtain themselves.